The story of Fallout 3 begins in the heavy, quiet darkness of the underground. You were born in Vault 101, a massive bunker designed to keep humanity safe from the nuclear fire that destroyed the world 200 years ago. Inside the vault, life is simple and strictly controlled. The walls are made of cold, gray steel, and the air is perfectly recycled, carrying a faint smell of ozone and cleaning chemicals. To the people living here, the outside world is a myth. They believe the surface is a poisoned wasteland where nothing can survive, so they stay inside, protected by the absolute rule of the overseer. You grow up in a series of snapshots. You see yourself as a baby, then a child at a birthday party, and eventually a teenager taking a career exam. Your father, James, is the most important person in your life. He is a doctor and a man of science, but he always seems to be carrying a secret weight. He teaches you how to handle yourself, giving you a BB gun to practice with and showing you the basics of medicine. Through him, you learn that there is more to life than just following the vault's rules. He is your anchor in a world where every day looks exactly like the one before. Everything changes on the morning you turn 19. You are woken up by your childhood friend, Amida, who is in a state of panic. She tells you that your father has done the impossible. He has escaped from the vault. This news is a death sentence for your quiet life. The overseer has gone into a paranoid rage, blaming you for your father's disappearance. His security guards are already on their way to arrest or kill you. In an instant, the only home you have ever known turns into a trap. The escape from the vault is a blurred memory of flashing red lights and the sound of heavy boots on metal floors. You have to fight your way through the corridors you used to play in. The guards, men you've known your whole life, are now trying to gun you down. You see the chaos your father's departure has caused. Some people are terrified, others are trying to start a revolution, and the overseer is willing to kill everyone to maintain control. You eventually reach the secret entrance to the vault, a massive circular door that looks like a giant gear. As the heavy door grinds open, the sterile air of the vault is sucked away, replaced by a sudden, harsh wind. You step out onto a rocky ledge and have to shield your eyes. For the first time, you are seeing the sun. It isn't the soft, artificial light of the bunker. It is a bright, blinding glare that reveals a world of gray and brown. This is the Capital Wasteland. Below you lie the ruins of Washington, D.C., a skeletal landscape of shattered highways and dead trees. The silence out here is different than the silence of the vault. It is the silence of a graveyard that stretches for miles in every direction. Your father is out there somewhere, and you are the only one who can find him. You look down at your Pip-Boy, the computer strapped to your wrist, and see a faint signal. Your journey begins with a single step down the dusty hillside, leaving the safety of the underground behind forever. You are no longer just a resident of a bunker. You are a traveler in a world that died long ago, searching for the man who gave you life. The path ahead leads toward a small settlement in the distance, a place where the smoke of a fire suggests that someone, somehow, is still alive. The wasteland is a cruel teacher. Within the first hour, you realize that everything is a struggle. The water is irradiated, the animals have mutated into monsters, and the very air feels heavy with the ghost of the Great War. You are alone, carrying nothing but a few supplies and the memory of your father's voice. But as you look out over the horizon, you see the crumbled dome of the Capitol building. It stands as a reminder of what the world used to be, and it serves as a beacon for where you need to go. You aren't just looking for James. You are looking for a reason to survive in a world that seems to want you dead. The first destination is a town called Megaton. From the hills, it looks like a pile of junk, but it represents your first chance at finding answers. As you walk, you start to notice the details of the destruction, the rusted husks of cars that haven't moved in 2 centuries and the bleached bones of those who didn't make it to the vaults. Every step away from the steel door of Vault 101 is a step into a new, dangerous legend. You are the lone wanderer now, and your story is just beginning to be written in the dust of the old world. The transition from the vault to the surface is a shock to the system. In the vault, your future was decided for you by a computer test. Out here, your future is decided by the choices you make and the speed of your trigger finger. You think about Amida and the life you left behind, but there is no going back. The overseer has made sure of that. Your only choice is to move forward, following the trail of a man who thought the world was worth saving, even after it had been burned to a cinder. The sun begins to set, casting long, jagged shadows over the ruins, and you realize that night in the wasteland is a darkness deeper than any you've felt underground. As you reach the outskirts of Megaton, you see the high walls made of airplane wings and scrap metal. A robotic voice crackles over a speaker, welcoming you to the town. You take a deep breath of the dusty air, feeling the weight of the pistol in your hand. You don't know what you'll find inside, but you know you can't stop. Your father's tracks are fresh, and the mystery of why he left is the only thing driving you forward. You approach the gate, ready to see what kind of life has grown in the shadow of the apocalypse. The walk down the road is quiet, but you feel like you're being watched. Mutated insects the size of dogs scuttle through the brush, and the wind whistles through the holes in the ruined buildings. It's a lonely feeling, being the only living thing moving across a landscape of rot. But then you see the lights of the town flickering in the dusk. It's a sign of life, a sign of hope, and a sign that your father might still be within reach. You reach the gate of Megaton, the metal groaning as it swings open, and you step inside to begin the next chapter of your life. As you step through the heavy scrap metal gates of Megaton, the first thing you notice is the smell. It's a thick mix of old oil, rusted iron, and wood smoke. The town is built inside a massive crater, with shacks and walkways clinging to the jagged walls like barnacles on a ship. In the very center of the town, sitting in a stagnant pool of muddy water, is the reason for the city's name: a massive, unexploded nuclear bomb. It lies there quietly, a black metal egg from the old world that never hatched, yet it still holds the power to turn everything you see into ash. Standing near the gate is a man wearing a duster and a wide-brimmed hat. This is Lucas Sims, the town's mayor and sheriff. He greets you with a cautious but not unkind look, his hand never far from the rifle on his back. Sims explains that the town was built around the bomb because the crater provided shelter from the wind and the raiders. He tells you that as long as you keep your weapon holstered and don't cause trouble, you're welcome to stay. He's a man who believes in the old ways of law and order, acting as the thin line between the citizens and the chaos of the wastes. Your main goal is still finding your father, so you head toward the center of the crater to Moriarty's saloon. The bar is a dim, crowded place where the air is blue with smoke and the floor is sticky with spilled rockgut. Colin Moriarty, the owner, is a man who seems to have his fingers in every pocket in town. He knew your father, but he isn't the type to give away secrets for free. He tells you that James was looking for information about something called Project Purity before he headed deeper into the ruins of Washington, D.C. To get more details, Moriarty expects you to pay up or do some dirty work for him. While you're weighing your options in the bar, a man in a sharp, clean suit approaches you. His name is Mr. Burke, and he looks completely out of place in this pile of junk. He works for a wealthy man named Alistair Tenpenny, who lives in a luxury tower miles away. Burke has a proposition that chills you to the bone. He wants you to rig the bomb in the center of town to explode. Tenpenny thinks the town is an eyesore that ruins the view from his balcony, and he's willing to pay a fortune to see it disappear. This is the moment you realize that in the wasteland, the most dangerous things aren't the monsters, but the people. The choice is yours. You can go to Sheriff Sims and tell him about Burke's plan, helping him disarm the bomb and securing the safety of the town. Or you can take the detonator from Burke, sneak down to the bomb, and prime it for destruction. The town is full of people just trying to survive. A doctor who treats everyone for free, a woman writing a survival guide, and families who have nowhere else to go. But Burke's offer of caps and a luxury apartment in Tenpenny Tower is a tempting escape from the filth and radiation of Megaton. If you choose the path of the hero, you'll need a steady hand and some technical knowledge. Standing over that rusted hunk of death while the children of Adam, a cult that worships the bomb, chant their prayers is one of the most nerve-wracking things you've ever done. When the light on the detonator finally turns green, a weight lifts off the entire town. Sims is grateful, and as a reward, he gives you the deed to an old house on the upper rim of the crater. It's the first place you can truly call your own since leaving the vault, a place to store your gear and sleep without one eye open. Inside your new home, you find a robot butler named Wadsworth who can give you clean water and tell you jokes. It's a small slice of the pre-war life your father used to talk about. But even with a roof over your head, the mystery of James lingers. You find a holotape he left behind, a recording of his voice that sounds tired but determined. He mentions a place called Galaxy News Radio and a man named Three Dog who might be able to help him. The trail is leading you away from the safety of Megaton's walls and into the heart of the ruins of the capital. Before you leave, you spend some time helping the locals. You meet Moira Brown, a cheerful woman who is writing the Wasteland Survival Guide. She asks you to help her research the dangers of the world, like the effects of radiation and the behavior of landmines. Her tasks are dangerous, often leaving you bruised and glowing with rads. But she rewards you with supplies and knowledge that will keep you alive. She represents the spirit of Megaton, a stubborn refusal to give up, no matter how many times the world tries to kick you down. The town is also a hub for traders. You see the Brahmin, mutated, two-headed cows, loaded down with packs as caravans come and go. You learn that the economy is based on bottle caps, a strange currency that reflects how much has been lost. You trade your Vault jumpsuits for some reinforced leather armor and a sturdy hunting rifle. You're starting to look less like a Vault dweller and more like a survivor. The blue and yellow of 101 is covered in dust and grease, a symbol of the person you used to be. As you prepare to head out, you stand on the walkway overlooking the town. The bomb sits silent in the center, a reminder of the choice you made. You chose life over profit, and the people of Megaton will remember that. But the world outside is vast and unforgiving. The ruins of D.C. are visible on the horizon, a jagged skyline of broken monuments and crumbling skyscrapers. Somewhere in that maze of concrete and rebar is your father, and he's running out of time. You check your map, load your rifle, and step back out through the scrap metal gate. The road ahead is blocked by the remains of a highway. You have to navigate through the rubble, avoiding the traps set by raiders and the nests of giant rad scorpions. Every mile takes you further from the crater and closer to the war zone that was once the seat of American power. You hear the faint sound of music on your Pip-Boy, a radio station broadcasting from the ruins. It's a voice that sounds energetic and defiant, calling out to all the dwellers of the wasteland. That's your next stop. Galaxy News Radio is calling, and you're ready to answer. As the sun sets, casting long, dark shadows over the cracked asphalt, you find a small culvert to huddle in for the night. You look at the picture of your mother that your father kept in his desk, the only thing you have left of your family. You wonder if James is looking at the same moon, or if he's already found what he was looking for. The journey has just begun, and the Capital Wasteland has a way of swallowing people whole. But you have something the others don't, a purpose. And you won't stop until you find the man who started it all. The trek from the scrap walls of Megaton toward the heart of Washington, D.C. is where the true scale of the world's end finally hits you. The open wasteland gives way to a suffocating maze of shattered concrete and twisted rebar. The roads are choked with the rusted remains of cars that haven't moved since the day the sky turned red. Navigating the ruins isn't easy. Many of the main streets are blocked by mountains of rubble, forcing you to descend into the metro, the dark, crumbling subway tunnels that run like veins beneath the city. Inside the tunnels, the air is thick with the smell of damp earth and rot. Your only light comes from the green glow of your Pip-Boy and the occasional flickering lantern left by scavengers. This is the hunting ground of the feral ghouls. These were once humans who were exposed to so much radiation that their minds snapped, leaving them as mindless, screaming predators. They move with a terrifying, twitchy speed, lashing out from the shadows. Every echo in the tunnels makes your heart race, reminding you that down here, you are the intruder in a world of monsters. When you finally emerge from the darkness of the subways, you find yourself in the middle of a literal war zone. The beautiful monuments you saw in old history books are now scarred by fire and bullets. This area is controlled by the super mutants, massive, green-skinned giants with incredible strength and a hatred for anything human. They have turned the museums and office buildings into fortresses, decorating them with nets full of gore and scrap metal. You quickly realize that you can't fight them all. You have to be smart, moving through the ruins like a ghost to avoid their heavy patrols. As you push toward the signal of Galaxy News Radio, you hear the sounds of heavy combat echoing off the canyon-like walls of the skyscrapers. You round a corner and see a group of soldiers wearing gleaming, polished suits of T-45 power armor. These are the Brotherhood of Steel. They look like knights from an old legend, wielding massive laser rifles and heavy miniguns. They are locked in a desperate battle with a group of super mutants, including a terrifying behemoth, a mutant the size of a building that swings a fire hydrant like a club. You join the fight, helping the Brotherhood squad push the mutants back. The soldiers are led by Sentinel Lyons, a tough woman who is impressed by your bravery. She invites you into the GNR building, which the Brotherhood has turned into a fortified radio station. Inside, the atmosphere is electric. This is the source of the voice you've been hearing on your Pip-Boy. You walk up the stairs and finally meet the man behind the microphone, 3Dog. He's a charismatic, loud, and defiant DJ who uses his broadcasts to spread the good fight across the wasteland. 3Dog knows who you are. He's seen your father, James, and he knows where he went. But, true to the ways of the wasteland, he needs your help before he talks. The station's signal is weak because the relay dish on top of the Washington Monument was damaged. He asks you to travel to the Museum of Technology, retrieve a specialized satellite dish from a lunar lander exhibit, and install it at the top of the monument. It's a dangerous mission that takes you right back into the teeth of the super mutant territory. The museum is a haunting place. It's filled with the skeletons of planes and space capsules, symbols of a time when humanity was looking toward the stars instead of the dirt. Now, those same halls are filled with traps and mutant patrols. You find the lunar lander and take the dish, feeling a strange sense of irony that you're using space-age tech just to help a man talk on the radio. After a grueling climb to the top of the Washington Monument, protected by Brotherhood snipers, you install the dish. Suddenly, the radio signal becomes clear, and 3Dog's voice booms out over the entire D.C. area. Back at the station, 3Dog keeps his word. He tells you that your father wasn't just wandering. He was looking for a specific person. James went to meet a scientist named Dr. Lee in a place called Rivet City. This is a massive settlement built inside a derelict aircraft carrier grounded in the Potomac River. It's one of the most advanced and well-defended places in the wasteland, but reaching it means traveling through some of the most dangerous docks and flooded streets in the city. 3Dog gives you a warm farewell, reminding you to keep fighting the good fight. As you leave the station, his voice follows you through your Pip-Boy, playing old songs from the 1940s that sound hauntingly beautiful against the backdrop of the ruins. You start to understand why he does what he does. In a world this dark, a voice on the radio is more than just noise. It's a tether that keeps people connected and reminds them that they aren't alone in the ash. The walk toward Rivet City is long and treacherous. You pass the charred remains of the Jefferson Memorial and the skeletal ruins of the Capitol building. You see the Talon Company, a group of ruthless mercenaries who have been hired to hunt you down because of your actions in Megaton. You have to learn how to set traps of your own, using landmines and grenades to even the odds. The wasteland is changing you. The soft hands of a vault dweller are becoming calloused, and your eyes are always scanning the horizon for the next threat. You eventually see it, the massive, rusted silhouette of the aircraft carrier. It sits like a giant metal island in the water, its flight deck jagged and broken. A bridge swings down to allow you access, and you walk across, feeling the vibration of the ship's old generators beneath your feet. Rivet City is a maze of metal hallways, smelling of salt water and hot iron. It's a city of science and trade, a place where people have managed to carve out a life inside a weapon of war. Inside the science lab, you find Dr. Madison Lee. She is a sharp, impatient woman who worked with your parents years ago. When you mention your father, her expression softens just a little. She tells you about Project Purity, a dream your parents had to create a massive water purification plant that could provide clean, radiation-free water to everyone in the wasteland. It was a project that failed years ago when your mother died, but it seems James has gone back to it. He's at the Jefferson Memorial, trying to restart the dream they started together. Leaving the metal halls of Rivet City, you head toward the Jefferson Memorial. This old monument used to be a place of beauty, but now it's a fortress held by super mutants. Your father's goal was to turn this place into the heart of Project Purity, using its massive pumps to clean the water of the Potomac River. As you fight your way through the memorial's rotunda and basement, you find signs that James was just here. There are fresh medical supplies, old notes scattered on desks, and most importantly, a series of holotapes he left behind for you. Listening to the tapes, you hear the voice of a man driven by a singular purpose. James explains that he never wanted to leave you in the vault, but he couldn't let the dream of clean water die. He realized that the project was missing a key component, a way to actually start the purification process on a massive scale. His research led him to a name from the past, Dr. Stanislaus Braun. Braun was one of the lead scientists for Vault-Tec, the company that built the bunkers, and he was the creator of something called the GCK, or Garden of Eden Creation Kit. James believed that if he could find Braun, he could find a way to make Project Purity work. The trail leads you far to the west, away from the city ruins and into the rocky hills. Hidden beneath an old automotive shop, you find the entrance to Vault 112. Unlike the chaos of Vault 101, this place is eerily silent. There are no guards, no sirens, and no signs of struggle. Inside, you find a large room filled with tranquility loungers. Strange, high-tech pods where people are lying in a deep sleep. Your father's pod is among them, but he is unresponsive. To reach him, you have to enter the machine yourself and dive into the digital world where his mind is trapped. You wake up in a place called Tranquility Lane. It's a perfect 1950s-style American suburb. The sun is shining, the grass is green, and children are playing in the streets. It looks like a paradise, but something feels very wrong. The residents are acting like robots, repeating the same happy phrases over and over. You soon meet a young girl named Betty, who is actually a digital avatar for Dr. Braun. Braun has been the god of this simulation for 200 years, and he has spent that time torturing the residents for his own sick amusement. He has everyone's minds trapped in a loop, and he has trapped your father, too. Braun tells you that he will release your father only if you help him play a game. He wants you to destroy the happiness of the simulation by making the residents miserable or even deleting them. This is a cruel test of your character. You can choose to follow Braun's dark orders to save James quickly, or you can search for a fail-safe hidden within the simulation. In an abandoned house, you find a series of musical objects that, when played in the right order, activate the simulation's emergency shutdown. This Chinese invasion program ends the dream for everyone, allowing the residents to finally die in peace and freeing you and your father from Braun's control. When you emerge from the lounger back in the real vault, you see James sitting up, rubbing his head. The reunion is intense. He is shocked that you followed him all this way, and he is deeply proud of the person you've become. There isn't much time for sentiment, though. He explains that he finally has the information he needs. Braun confirmed that a GCK exists and that it is the key to Project Purity. James is more determined than ever to finish what your mother started. He asks you to travel back to Rivet City with him to gather Dr. Lee and the rest of the science team. The walk back to the city with your father is a strange experience. For the first time in your life, you are protecting him. You have the weapons and the experience to fight off the raiders and creatures while he talks about the future. He speaks about a world where people don't have to die of thirst or radiation sickness. He truly believes that Project Purity will be the spark that brings civilization back to the wasteland. Seeing the hope in his eyes makes you realize that his betrayal back in the vault wasn't about leaving you. It was about giving you a world worth living in. Back at Rivet City, the science team is reunited. Dr. Lee is skeptical at first, but James's passion wins her over. They pack their gear and head back to the Jefferson Memorial, this time with the Brotherhood of Steel providing a small guard. You help the scientists clear out the last of the mutants and start the long process of repairing the old machinery. The basement of the memorial is filled with the sound of clanking metal and hissing steam as the pumps begin to groan back to life. It feels like the good fight Three Dog talked about is finally being won. But as the project nears completion, the sky over the Potomac begins to darken with the sound of heavy engines. Out of the clouds come vertibirds, advanced, armored gunships that belong to a mysterious and powerful force known as the Enclave. They represent the remnants of the old United States government, and they have been watching the project from the shadows. They don't want to help the wasteland. They want to control the water for themselves. They believe that they are the only pure humans left and that everyone else in the wasteland is a mutant that needs to be cleared away. Soldiers in advanced power armor drop from the sky, storming the memorial with high-tech plasma weapons. The Brotherhood guards are overwhelmed, and the scientists are trapped in the control room. A man named Colonel Autumn leads the attack, demanding that your father hand over all the research and the codes to the purifier. James looks at you through the glass of the control booth and makes a silent decision. He knows that if the Enclave gets the project, they will use it as a weapon to rule or destroy the people of the wastes. In a final act of sacrifice, James triggers a massive radiation leak within the control chamber. The room is flooded with lethal levels of energy, killing the Enclave soldiers inside and James himself. Colonel Autumn managed to inject himself with a mysterious serum and escaped, but your father is gone. Through the thick glass, you watch as he collapses, giving his life to make sure the Enclave couldn't take the dream away. You are devastated, but Dr. Lee grabs your arm. There is no time to mourn. You have to lead the remaining scientists through a secret tunnel to the only place that might be safe, the Citadel, the main headquarters of the Brotherhood of Steel. The escape through the tunnels beneath the Jefferson Memorial is a blur of panic and darkness. You lead Dr. Lee and the remaining scientists through the Taft tunnels, a narrow, winding path that ends at the thick stone walls of the Pentagon. This massive building is now the Citadel, the fortress of the Brotherhood of Steel. After a tense standoff at the gate, the Brotherhood recognizes Dr. Lee and lets you in. Inside, you find a world of discipline and technology. The soldiers here are the last hope for order in the wasteland, but even they are reeling from the news of the Enclave's return and your father's death. You are granted an audience with Elder Lyons, the leader of the Brotherhood. He is an old man with a heavy heart, burdened by the realization that the Enclave possesses technology far superior to their own. He allows you to stay and even grants you power armor training, something usually reserved for their most loyal knights. This is a turning point for you. You step into the heavy, motorized suit of T-45 armor, feeling the hum of the fusion core at your back. You are no longer just a wanderer. You are a walking tank, ready to take the fight back to the people who murdered your father. However, the Brotherhood can't win a war without a plan. You explain James's final discovery, the Garden of Eden Creation Kit, GECK. This device, designed to turn a dead landscape into a lush paradise, is the only thing that can stabilize the water purifier. Elder Lyons searches the Brotherhood's archives and finds a lead. A GCK was assigned to Vault 87, a bunker located in the treacherous northern hills. The problem is that Vault 87 was the site of horrific experiments. It is the birthplace of the super mutants, and the radiation around its main entrance is so high that it would kill a man in seconds, even in power armor. To get inside, you have to go through the Little Lamplight Caverns. This is one of the strangest places in the wasteland, a city populated entirely by children. When the bombs fell, a group of kids on a school trip survived in these caves, and they have maintained a society ever since. When they turn 16, they are kicked out into the wastes, which they call Big Town. To gain their trust, you have to rescue some of their friends from a nearby super mutant camp. It's a grim reminder that in this world, even childhood is a battle for survival. Once the children trust you, their mayor, a foul-mouthed kid named McCready, shows you the back entrance to Vault 87. As you enter the vault, the atmosphere changes instantly. The walls are covered in gore bags and strange, pulsing biological growths. This is where the FEV, forced evolutionary virus, was used to transform humans into the mindless giants you've been fighting. You find rows of stasis chambers and medical records detailing the agonizing transformations. It is a house of horrors, a place where science was used to strip away everything that makes a person human. Deep within the laboratory section, you hear a voice over an intercom that isn't a scream or a grunt. You find a super mutant named Fox locked in a high-security cell. Unlike his brothers, Fox has managed to keep his intelligence and his soul. He speaks with a calm, poetic dignity and asks for your help. If you release him, he becomes a powerful ally. Because of his mutant biology, he is immune to the lethal radiation in the chamber where the GCK is kept. He walks into the glowing green fog and emerges with the silver briefcase, the key to the future. Just as you are leaving the vault with the device, the Enclave strikes. They don't use a frontal assault. They use a high-tech stun grenade that knocks you unconscious before you can even raise your rifle. When you wake up, you are no longer in the dark caves. You are in a cold, sterile cell inside Raven Rock, the Enclave's secret mountain headquarters. You are stripped of your gear, and the GCK is gone. This is the heart of the enemy, a place of gleaming metal and infinite soldiers. You are brought before Colonel Autumn for interrogation, but the questioning is interrupted by a voice over the base intercom. It is President John Henry Eden. He orders the guards to release you and demands that you meet him in his private chambers at the top of the mountain. This creates a massive rift in the Enclave. Autumn is furious and orders his men to kill you on sight, defying the president's orders. You have to fight your way through the base, using the Enclave's own hallways as cover while the president's robotic turrets fight against the human soldiers. When you finally reach the president's office, you expect to see a man. Instead, you find a massive wall of computer monitors and processing units. John Henry Eden is an artificial intelligence, a self-aware supercomputer that built its personality from the records of all the past presidents of the United States. He is the one who has been broadcasting the patriotic speeches you've heard on the radio. He explains his plan for the wasteland. He wants to use the water purifier to distribute a modified FEV strain. This virus would kill anything with mutated DNA, which includes almost everyone and everything currently living in the wasteland. Eden believes this is the only way to reclaim America for pure humans. He hands you a vial of the virus and asks you to put it into the purifier once the Enclave captures the memorial. He sees you as a tool for his divine purpose. In this moment, you have the chance to use your logic to destroy him. You can point out the flaws in his programming, convincing the AI that his existence is a failure. If you are successful, Eden initiates a self-destruct sequence for the entire base. As Raven Rock begins to crumble and explode around you, you make a desperate run for the exit. Outside, you find Fox waiting for you with a heavy Gatling laser, having tracked your capture all the way across the wasteland. Together, you fight your way through the exterior defenses just as the mountain collapses in a spectacular fireball. You are alive and you have the GCK, but the Enclave is still moving toward the Jefferson Memorial with their full force. The final battle for the water of the world is about to begin. You rush back to the Citadel to warn the Brotherhood of Steel. Elder Lyons realizes that the time for caution is over. The Enclave is at the gates, and if they start the purifier, they will control the fate of every living soul in the Capital Wasteland. He authorizes the use of the Brotherhood's ultimate weapon, something they have been repairing for decades. You watch as the hangar floor opens, and a massive, 40-foot-tall robot named Liberty Prime rises from the depths. The giant machine begins to march toward the city, its I-beams vaporizing Enclave barriers while it shouts patriotic slogans. The March of Liberty Prime is something you will never forget. The giant robot strides through the ruins of Washington, D.C. like a god of war, its massive metal feet crushing cars and debris into dust. Every time an Enclave vertibird tries to attack from the sky, Prime blasts it out of the air with blue laser beams firing from its eyes. It shouts out recorded messages about freedom and the defeat of communism, its voice echoing off the shattered skyscrapers. Following behind the giant, you and the Brotherhood of Steel Lion's Pride squad push through the final defenses surrounding the Jefferson Memorial. The battle at the memorial is a nightmare of plasma fire and explosions. The Enclave has dug in deep, using energy shields to block the walkways. But Liberty Prime doesn't care about shields. It simply rips them apart with its bare hands. You fight your way up the steps of the monument, the same steps you walked with your father just a short time ago. The air is hot and smells of ozone. Inside the memorial, the fighting is close and brutal. You move through the gift shop and the rotunda, clearing out the last of the Enclave soldiers until you reach the door to the control room. Inside, you find Colonel Autumn. He is waiting for you, backed by his two best bodyguards. He is desperate and angry, refusing to believe that the pure government of the United States could be defeated by a kid from a vault and a group of knights in scrap metal. You have a choice. You can talk him down, convincing him that the war is lost and his men are dying for nothing, or you can end it with a fight. If it comes to blood, the battle is quick. Autumn falls in the same room where your father died, his dream of a new world empire ending on the cold metal floor. But as the room goes quiet, a new alarm begins to blare. The purifier has been damaged during the fighting, and the pressure is reaching a breaking point. Dr. Lee speaks to you over the intercom, her voice shaking with fear. She explains that the system is about to explode, which would destroy the memorial and poison the water forever. Someone has to go inside the control chamber, the same chamber flooded with lethal radiation, to enter the activation code and start the process before it's too late. The situation is a mirror of your father's final moment. The radiation inside the booth is so high that whoever enters will not come back out. You look at Sentinel Lyons, who is ready to give her life for the cause. You also have the option to ask your mutant friend, Fox, or your robotic companion to do it, since they are immune to radiation. However, in that moment, the weight of your father's legacy feels heavy on your shoulders. He gave his life to protect this dream, and the activation code is actually the favorite Bible verse of your mother, 21:6. If you choose to step into the chamber yourself, the world slows down. You feel the heat of the radiation through your armor the moment you step through the door. Your vision begins to blur, and your lungs burn with every breath. You reach the keypad and punch in the numbers, 216. As you hit the final button, you hear the deep, powerful hum of the pumps turning on. The water of the Potomac River begins to glow with a clean, blue light. You fall to the floor, exhausted and dying, but you see the water starting to flow. You've done it. You've finished the work your parents started. Everything fades to white, and the voice of the narrator returns to tell the story of the lone wanderer. This was the end of the original journey, a story of a child who left a vault to find a father and ended up saving a world. But death wasn't the end for you. 2 weeks later, you wake up in a bed at the Citadel. Thanks to the Brotherhood's medical tech and the fact that you were wearing power armor, you survived the radiation, though it was a very close call. The wasteland has changed in the time you were asleep. The Brotherhood of Steel now controls the Jefferson Memorial, and they are distributing free, clean water to everyone in the region. This is the Aqua Pura program. You see caravans leaving the city, carrying barrels of blue-labeled water to settlements like Megaton and Rivet City. For the first time in 200 years, people don't have to worry about the water they drink. It is the beginning of a new era for the Capital Wasteland. But the war isn't over. The Enclave wasn't destroyed when Raven Rock fell. They have retreated to a secret base at the Adams Air Force Base. They are still a threat, and they are planning a counterattack using a massive orbital satellite weapon. Elder Lyons tells you that the Brotherhood needs your help one last time to finish the Enclave for good. This leads into the Broken Steel chapter of your life, where you are no longer a searcher, but a legendary soldier in the final war for America's future. You take your first walk outside the Citadel since the battle. The air feels different, cleaner somehow. You see the people of the wasteland lining up for their water rations, their faces full of a hope you haven't seen before. You realize that your father was right. One man or one woman can change the world if they are willing to sacrifice everything for a dream. You check your gear, reload your rifle, and look toward the horizon. The Enclave is still out there, but you aren't afraid. You are the person who brought light back to the darkness. As you prepare for the next mission, Three Dog's voice comes over the radio. He's telling the story of the hero of Project Purity. And for once, he isn't just talking about your father. He's talking about you. He reminds everyone that the good fight is never truly over, but that as long as there are people willing to stand up against the darkness, there is a chance for a better tomorrow. You smile, pull your helmet on, and head toward the vertibird waiting in the courtyard. There is still work to be done. The war for the Capital Wasteland didn't end at the water's edge. Even though the purifier was running and the Potomac was finally clean, the Enclave was still a wounded beast, and a wounded beast is always the most dangerous. While you were recovering in the Citadel, the Brotherhood of Steel had been busy. They were using the momentum of your victory to push the Enclave out of their small outposts, but they had hit a wall. The enemy had retreated to a massive, hidden facility, and they were using a satellite weapon to strike at the Brotherhood from space. Elder Lyons welcomes you back to the front lines. He explains that the Brotherhood scouts have located a major Enclave transmission center in a place called the Rockland Car Tunnel. This is your first mission in the Broken Steel chapter. You aren't just a survivor anymore. You are a key operative for the Brotherhood. You travel to the tunnel with a squad of paladins, and for the first time you feel the true power of the Brotherhood. With the water flowing, their morale is at an all-time high. You fight your way through the dark, cramped tunnels, clearing out Enclave squads that are better equipped than ever before. After capturing the transmission data, the Brotherhood realizes the scale of the threat. The Enclave is holed up at the Adams Air Force Base, a heavily fortified location that is nearly impossible to reach by land. To get there, the Brotherhood has been working on a secret project, a mobile base of their own. But they need a specialized piece of technology to get it moving. They send you to the ruins of Old Olney, a town that has become a nightmare of the wasteland. It is infested with death claws. Massive, horned monsters with claws like scythes and skin like armor. Old Olney is a test of everything you've learned. The town is a maze of crumbling brick and collapsed sewers. The Deathclaws move with a speed that defies their size, and they can rip through power armor in seconds. You have to use every tool in your arsenal, from heavy Fat Man mini-nuke launchers to high-tech energy weapons. Deep beneath the streets, in a forgotten government facility, you find the Tesla coil the Brotherhood needs. It's a dangerous trek, but with the coil in hand, you return to the Citadel, proving once again that you can survive the worst the world has to throw at you. With the technology secured, the Brotherhood prepares for the final push. They have discovered a way to use the old presidential subterranean metro to reach Adams Air Force Base. This is a secret railway that runs directly from the White House ruins to the base. You board the high-speed train, feeling the rush of air as you zip beneath the irradiated soil. When the train finally stops, you emerge into a world of jet hangars and concrete runways. The Enclave is everywhere, and they know you're coming. The battle for Adams Air Force Base is the largest conflict you've ever seen. The sky is filled with vertibirds, and the ground shakes with the fire of heavy artillery. You have to fight your way across the tarmac, dodging sniper fire and plasma bolts. Your goal is to reach the mobile base crawler, a massive, moving fortress on treads that the Enclave is using as their command center. It is a giant metal beast that towers over the hangars, and it is the key to their orbital weapon. As you climb through the levels of the crawler, you see the true face of the Enclave. They have labs filled with experimental weapons and detailed plans to take over the entire East Coast. You reach the bridge of the ship and find the terminal that controls the orbital satellite. You have a massive choice to make. You can target the satellite on the Enclave base itself, ending the threat once and for all. Or, if you have a darker heart, you can turn the weapon on the Citadel, destroying the Brotherhood and leaving yourself as the most powerful person in the wastes. Most heroes choose to finish the good fight. You input the coordinates for the Air Force Base and initiate the strike. You have only a few minutes to escape the crawler before the fire comes down from the sky. You run through the exploding corridors, jumping onto a waiting Brotherhood vertibird just as the countdown hits 0. Looking out the window, you see a beam of pure light descend from the heavens. The Air Force Base disappears in a mushroom cloud of fire and debris. The Enclave's back is finally broken. The return to the Citadel is a victory parade. The Brotherhood has captured enough Enclave technology to ensure that the wasteland will stay safe for years to come. Elder Lyons thanks you for your service, and Three Dog tells the world that the war is over. But even with the Enclave gone, the work continues. You see the Aquapura caravans moving out with even more protection. The water is reaching places that haven't seen a clean drop in centuries. You've changed the map of America, turning a graveyard into a place where life can actually grow. But the wasteland is a big place, and the capital is just one part of it. You spend your days helping the Brotherhood maintain the peace, but you also hear rumors from other lands. There are stories of a strange swamp to the south called Point Lookout, and a terrifying slave city to the north called the Pit. You realize that your journey didn't end with the destruction of the Enclave. As long as there are people in need and monsters in the dark, the lone wanderer will always have a road to walk. You sit on the edge of the Citadel's wall, looking out at the ruins of D.C. The Jefferson Memorial is glowing in the distance, a beacon of blue light in the dark. You think about your father and how proud he would be to see the water flowing. You think about the vault you left behind and how small your life used to be. You've grown from a confused teenager into a legend. You check the charge on your laser rifle, tighten the straps on your armor, and stand up. There's a new signal on your Pip-Boy, a strange message coming from the northern hills. It's time to move out. The legacy of Project Purity is secure. The Brotherhood is strong, the Enclave is scattered, and the people are drinking clean water. You've done more than anyone thought possible. But the good fight is a long one, and you aren't tired yet. You head toward the garage, ready to see what the next chapter of the Wasteland has in store. Whether it's aliens in the sky or slavers in the mills, you're ready. Because you are the lone wanderer, and the Wasteland is finally your home. The call for help comes from a man named Vernher, who has managed to escape from the ruins of what used to be Pittsburgh. He tells you a story that makes the troubles of Washington, D.C. look small. The city, now known as the Pit, has been turned into a massive, smoke-choked industrial hellscape where a brutal group of raiders has enslaved thousands. These slaves are forced to work in the steel mills, grinding out weapons and armor for a man named Lord Asher. But Vernher claims there is hope. Asher has supposedly found a cure for the trogs, the mutated, flesh-eating monsters that the slaves eventually turn into because of the city's toxic air. To get inside, you have to disguise yourself as a slave. You leave your power armor and your heavy weapons behind, wearing nothing but rags and carrying a concealed knife. Crossing the long, rusted bridge into the city is like walking into the throat of a furnace. The sky is a permanent, sickly orange color, blocked out by the constant soot and flame from the towering chimneys. The air is so thick with lead and radiation that every breath feels like swallowing needles. You are quickly rounded up by the guards and put to work, experiencing firsthand the cruelty of the pit raiders. The environment of the pit is a nightmare of verticality and rust. You are sent into the steel yard to collect steel ingots, a task that most slaves don't survive. Here you encounter the trogs. These creatures were once human, but the unique pollution of Pittsburgh has melted their skin and turned them into blind, howling predators that crawl along the ceilings and walls. Fighting them with nothing but an auto axe, a brutal motorized circular saw, is a desperate struggle for survival. You realize that every slave in the city is just a few months away from becoming one of these monsters. Vernher's plan is for you to win the Mill Arena, a series of bloodthirsty fights that allow a slave to earn their freedom and an audience with Lord Asher himself. After surviving waves of attackers and proving your strength, you are brought into Uptown, where the raiders live in luxury compared to the workers below. You finally meet Lord Asher, a former member of the Brotherhood of Steel who stayed behind to build this empire. He isn't the simple villain you expected. He believes that the slavery is a necessary evil to keep the mills running until the cure is perfected, so that one day Pittsburgh can lead the rebirth of civilization. The shocking truth is revealed when you sneak into Asher's private quarters. The cure isn't a medicine or a chemical. It is Asher's infant daughter, Marie. She was born with a natural immunity to the city's mutations. Asher and his wife, a scientist, are trying to study the baby's blood to create a vaccine. Vernher wants you to kidnap the child and bring her to the slave rebellion, arguing that the slaves have a right to the cure now and shouldn't have to wait for Asher's grand vision while they turn into monsters. This leaves you with one of the most difficult moral choices in the Wasteland. If you side with Vernher and the slaves, you have to kidnap a baby from her parents. This triggers a massive, violent uprising. The slaves rise up and start a war in the streets, but they lack the scientific equipment to properly care for the child or create the cure safely. The city becomes a chaotic bloodbath, and while the slaves are free, their future is uncertain and dangerous. You've broken the chains, but you might have destroyed the only chance at a real cure in the process. If you side with Lord Asher, you choose to maintain the brutal status quo for the sake of long-term stability. You put down the slave rebellion, killing Vernher and his followers. Asher remains in power, and the slaves continue to toil and mutate in the mills, but the research on the baby continues in a stable environment. Asher promises that once the vaccine is ready, he will free the workers and turn the pit into a true city of light. You've protected a family and a scientific hope, but you've done it on the backs of thousands of suffering people. The atmosphere of the city changes based on your choice. If the slaves win, the raider guards are replaced by workers with guns, but the flickering lights and the roar of the trogs in the shadows remain. If Asher wins, the mills keep grinding away, the soot never stopping. Regardless of what you decide, the pit leaves a permanent mark on your soul. It's a place where there are no clear heroes, only different shades of gray. You see that sometimes the good fight isn't about saving everyone. It's about choosing which tragedy you can live with. Before you leave, you can use the mills to craft unique gear. The perforator, a silenced assault rifle, and the heavy tribal power armor are reminders of the industrial might of this place. You walk back across the bridge, the orange glow of the chimneys fading behind you. You have a new respect for the complexity of the world. In D.C., the enemy was a computer or a mutant. In the pit, the enemy was the desperate need to survive at any cost. You've seen the best and worst of what humanity will do to stay alive. The train ride back to the Capital Wasteland is quiet. You think about the baby, Marie, and the weight of the future that rests on her tiny shoulders. You think about the slaves who will never see the sun without a layer of soot. When you finally reach the fresh air of the northern hills, you take a deep breath. It's still irradiated, but compared to the pit, it feels like paradise. You check your Pip-Boy and see that you have a new radio signal. It's a strange, clicking sound coming from the southern coast. Point Lookout is calling. It's a place of swamps and ancient mysteries, far away from the steel and smoke. You realize that you can't stay in one place for long. The wasteland is full of these pockets of darkness, and as the lone wanderer, you feel a responsibility to see them all. You head back to your house in Megaton to rest for a night, but your mind is already moving south. You pack some antivenom and extra shells for your shotgun. The swamp is a different kind of danger, and you need to be ready. As you fall asleep, the sound of the wind through the scrap metal of Megaton reminds you of the clanking of the mills. You've come a long way from the vault, and you've seen things that would drive a normal person mad. But you are the one who survived the vault, the one who found the father, and the one who decided the fate of the pit. You are ready for whatever comes next. The journey continues, and the wasteland still has many secrets to tell. The journey takes you south, far away from the ruins of the city and the smoke of the mills, to a place called Point Lookout. It's a massive, fog-shrouded swampland on the coast of Maryland that was never hit by the nuclear bombs. But don't let that fool you into thinking it's safe. The radiation from the rest of the world washed into the soil and the water, turning the beautiful coastline into a rotting, haunted marsh. The air here is thick and wet, smelling of salt, decaying wood, and old, stagnant mud. You arrive by a small boat called the Duchess Gambit, and the first thing you see is the silhouette of a massive, crumbling lighthouse through the mist. The pier is old and rickety, and the silence of the swamp is broken only by the croaking of mutated frogs. Unlike the raiders of D.C., the people who live here are swamp lurks and inbred locals who have been warped by generations of isolation and radiation. They don't want your caps. They just want you gone. They use double-barreled shotguns and axes, moving through the thick fog like ghosts. Your first stop is a grand, decaying mansion sitting on a hill. It's owned by a man, or rather, a ghoul, named Desmond Lockhart. He's a foul-mouthed, high-society Englishman who has been alive since before the war. When you arrive, the mansion is under siege by a group of tribal cultists who seem intent on burning it to the ground. Desmond needs your help to defend his home, but he's not a friendly employer. He views you as a useful tool in a game he's been playing for over 200 years. Desmond is locked in a great game of intellect and shadows against another survivor from the old world. To help him win, you have to venture deep into the heart of the swamp to spy on the cultists. This leads you to the Cathedral of the Atom, a wooden structure built into the side of a wrecked ship. The cultists here worship a giant, glowing fungus called the Mother Punga. To join them and learn their secrets, you are forced to undergo a sacred quest that involves inhaling the spores of the fungus and walking through a hallucination-filled dreamscape. The dream is one of the strangest things you've ever experienced. You see giant bobbleheads, floating needles, and visions of your father and the vault. The swamp itself seems to twist and turn around you. When you wake up, you find a jagged scar on your head. You've been operated on while you were unconscious. Someone or something has taken a small piece of your brain. This isn't just a tribal ritual. It's part of the great game, and it's a sign that your enemy is much more advanced than a group of swamp dwellers. You soon discover that Desmond's rival is a man named Professor Calvert. But Calvert isn't a ghoul like Desmond. He is a brain in a jar, kept alive by a massive pre-war computer system located in the ruins of the Point Lookout Lighthouse. The two of them have been fighting for centuries, using the locals and the cultists as pawns in their personal feud. Neither of them cares about the wasteland or the people in it. They only care about destroying each other to prove who is the superior mind. This creates another difficult choice for you. You can continue to help Desmond, the rude but honest ghoul who at least fights his own battles, or you can side with the floating brain of Professor Calvert, who promises you knowledge and power. The battle comes to a head at the lighthouse, where the two rivals use high-tech energy weapons and orbital strikes to try and wipe each other out. It's a clash of two ancient egos, and you are the one who decides which of them finally dies. If you choose to help Desmond, you storm the lighthouse and destroy Calvert's life support systems. The brain in the jar finally goes dark, ending the professor's long life. Desmond is grateful in his own grumpy way and gives you access to his private vault of pre-war weapons and supplies. He finally wins his great game. Though he admits that without an enemy to fight, his life feels a bit empty. He decides to stay in the swamp, continuing to guard his mansion against whatever else might crawl out of the mud. The environment of Point Lookout is its own kind of enemy. You find the Blackhall Manor, a house filled with dark, occult secrets and a book called the Krivbekne that seems to hold an ancient evil. You find the Marguerite's Shack, where an old woman asks you to find ingredients for her moonshine still. You explore the SS Wilson, a shipwreck that holds the history of the families who used to vacation here. It's a land where the past hasn't been buried by rubble. It's just been left to rot in the sun. As you walk back to the Duchess Gambit, the fog starts to lift just a little. You feel the weight of the missing piece of your brain, a permanent reminder of your time in the marsh. You've seen a different side of the apocalypse here, not a war of factions like the Brotherhood and the Enclave, but a war of memories and old grudges. Point Lookout is a place where time stands still, and even the winners are just ghosts of a world that's never coming back. The boat ride back to the Capital Wasteland is a relief. The salt air is replaced by the dry, familiar scent of the D.C. dust. You realize that you've become a collector of stories. You have the steel of the pit, the water of the purifier, and now the secrets of the swamp. Each journey makes you more capable, but it also makes you more cynical. You see how the old world still tries to reach out and control the new one, even from a jar or a crumbling mansion. Back in Megaton, you take a long shower to wash off the swamp mud. You look in the mirror at the scar on your head and wonder what else you're going to lose before your journey is over. But there's no time to dwell on it. Your Pip-Boy picks up a strange, rhythmic signal coming from the northern mountains. It's not a distress call or a radio station. It's a beacon, and it's not coming from anyone on Earth. Mothership Zeta is waiting in the stars, and the lone wanderer is about to go where no vault dweller has gone before. The journey takes a sharp turn from the dirt and grime of the wasteland to the cold, sterile hallways of space. It begins when you follow a strange, garbled radio signal to a crashed saucer in the middle of a rocky field. As you approach the wreckage, a beam of blue light snatches you off the ground, pulling you up through the clouds and into the belly of Mothership Zeta. This isn't the ruin of a human city. It's a massive, high-tech fortress orbiting the Earth, filled with small, gray-skinned aliens who have been watching humanity for centuries. You wake up in a circular cell with a woman named Soma. She's a wasteland scavenger who was abducted just like you. The aliens don't want to talk. They want to study you. They use robotic arms to poke and prod at you, treating you like nothing more than an animal in a cage. You soon realize that you aren't the only prisoner. By using the ship's vents and teleporters, you find a small girl named Sally who has been hiding in the ship's ductwork since the mid-22nd century. She knows the layout of the ship and helps you find other specimens who have been frozen in cryostasis for hundreds of years. The team you assemble is one of the strangest groups in history. You find Toshiro Kago, a samurai from ancient Japan who doesn't speak a word of English but knows how to handle a blade. You find Elliot Turkorian, a soldier from the Great War of 2077 who is still reeling from the news that his world is gone. There's also Paulson, a cowboy from the American Old West who just wants his hat back and a chance to shoot the demons who took him. Together, this ragtag group of people from across time must fight their way to the ship's bridge to take control and find a way back home. The environment of Mothership Zeta is a display of alien power. The walls are made of a smooth, white alloy that hums with energy, and the windows offer a terrifyingly beautiful view of the Earth below. You can see the entire Capital Wasteland from up here, a brown and gray smudge on the planet's surface. The aliens use shock batons and alien disintegrators, weapons that fire blue bolts of energy that turn a target into a pile of ash in a single hit. Fighting them is a high-speed game of cover and timing, far different from the slow, heavy battles with super mutants. As you move through the research labs, you see the horrific things the aliens have been doing. They have been hybridizing humans and extraterrestrials, creating mindless, screaming creatures called abominations. They have also been recording the voices of their victims for centuries. You find holotapes of people from the 1960s, the 2020s, and the post-war era, all begging for mercy in a dozen different languages. It becomes clear that these aliens aren't just curious explorers. They are cold, heartless observers who view humanity as nothing but a biological resource. To reach the bridge, you have to disable the ship's 3 massive generator cores. This takes you through the cryolab, the robot assembly, and the hangar, where you see rows of small scout ships ready for deployment. Each area is a gauntlet of turrets, shield generators, and elite alien guards wearing specialized armor. With the help of your team, the samurai cutting through guards, the cowboy providing cover fire, and the soldier using his tactical knowledge, you manage to cripple the ship's internal systems, forcing the alien captain to face you on the bridge. The battle for the bridge is a chaotic scramble. The alien captain is protected by a powerful energy shield, and he summons waves of reinforcements to stop you. Once the captain falls, you take control of the ship's main computer. But the fight isn't over. Another alien ship, even larger than Zeta, moves into orbit and begins to fire its death ray at you. You have to take the captain's chair and engage in an orbital dogfight, targeting the enemy ship's power relays while managing your own shields. It's a battle of light and fire high above the atmosphere of the Earth. When the enemy ship finally explodes in a brilliant flash of purple light, the bridge goes quiet. You've done the impossible. You've captured an alien mothership. Sally and the others decide to stay on the ship, seeing it as the safest place they've ever known. For the samurai and the cowboy, the wasteland is too strange and frightening. But for you, the Earth is still home. You use the ship's teleporter to return to the surface, landing back in the same rocky field where it all started. You stand there for a moment, looking up at the sky. You have a drone cannon on your back and a pocket full of alien epoxy, technology that would make the Brotherhood of Steel or the Enclave jealous. You've seen the world from a perspective that no other human has ever had. You realize that while the people of the wasteland are fighting over scraps of metal and puddles of water, there is a much larger, stranger universe out there. But your heart is still in the ruins. Your father's dream was about the Earth, not the stars. The air in the wasteland feels heavy and thick after the filtered atmosphere of the ship. You check your Pip-Boy and realize that while you were gone, things have continued to move. The Aqua Pura caravans are still rolling, and the Brotherhood is still patrolling the streets. You head back to Megaton, carrying your alien loot in a heavy pack. You tell no one where you've been. No one would believe you anyway. To them, you're just the lone wanderer, a person who sometimes disappears into the hills and comes back with strange, glowing gear. As you sit in your house, watching Wadsworth the robot float around, you look at a small piece of alien crystal you kept as a souvenir. It glows with a faint, blue light, a reminder of the samurai, the cowboy, and the girl who are now living in the stars. You've been a vault dweller, a hero, a slave, a ghost of the swamp, and now a space traveler. Every part of you has been tested, and every part of you has survived. But the radio is still crackling with a new signal. The final piece of the puzzle is a message from a woman named Victoria Watts. She's talking about a synthetic man who has escaped from a place called the Commonwealth. It's a mystery that leads you to the heart of Rivet City and the secret of the replicated man. You realize that even in a world of aliens and monsters, the most complex mysteries are still the ones involving human beings, or things that look exactly like them. You grab your gear and head toward the docks. The journey is never truly over. Back in the metal corridors of Rivet City, the air is thick with the smell of rust and the sound of the ocean hitting the hull. You are here to investigate a strange request from a man named Dr. Zimmer. He's a cold, clinical man who looks out of place even in this advanced city. He tells you he's looking for a recalled property, a runaway slave, or so it seems at first. But as he talks, the truth comes out. He is looking for an android, a machine built to look, act, and even bleed like a human. This machine has escaped from a place far to the north called the Commonwealth, and Zimmer wants it back. This is the start of a mystery that makes you question what it actually means to be alive. You begin by talking to the people of Rivet City, looking for anyone who might have seen something unusual. You eventually meet a woman named Victoria Watts, who represents a group called the Railroad. She pulls you aside into a quiet corner of the ship and pleads with you to stop your search. She explains that the android didn't just run away. It sought out a dangerous surgery to have its memory wiped and its face changed so it could live a life of freedom as a human. To the Railroad, this machine has a soul. The investigation leads you to the darkest corners of the ship. You find holotapes and medical records that hint at a master of reconstruction, a doctor who can change a person's entire identity. You learn about the Institute, a shadowy organization in the Commonwealth that creates these synths to serve as slaves. The android you're looking for was their best hunter, a machine designed to catch other runaways, until it realized the horror of its own existence and decided to disappear. It's a story that reminds you of your own escape from Vault 101, searching for a life you weren't programmed to have. Following the clues, you discover that the android is someone you've already met. It's Harkness, the stern but fair captain of the Rivet City Security Force. He has no idea he's a machine. The surgery was so successful that he truly believes he is a man with a past and a family. He spends his days protecting the city, ironically doing the same job he was built for, but this time he's doing it because he chose to. When you confront him with the evidence, a specialized activation code, the memories come rushing back to him in a painful, flickering flood of data and emotion. Harkness is terrified. He remembers the cold laboratories of the Institute and the feeling of being owned by Dr. Zimmer. He begs you not to turn him in. This is where the choice falls to you. You can give the activation code to Zimmer, watching as the scientist resets Harkness's personality and drags the blank-faced machine back to the north. Zimmer rewards you with high-tech modules that make your weapons more powerful, but the cost is the death of the man Harkness had become. You've served the right of property, but you've destroyed a life. Alternatively, you can side with Harkness and the Railroad. You can kill Dr. Zimmer or trick him into believing the android is dead. If you tell Harkness the truth but promise to keep his secret, he gives you his unique plasma rifle, one of the most powerful weapons in the Wasteland, and continues his life as the protector of Rivet City. He remains a man in his own mind, and the secret of his metal heart stays buried. You've protected a life, but you've also made a powerful enemy in the Institute, an organization that doesn't forget its lost property. This mystery is a window into the future of the Wasteland. It shows you that even as the world struggles to find clean water and food, science is still moving forward in terrifying ways. The existence of synths means that the line between man and machine is blurring. You start to look at everyone differently. Is the person next to you real, or are they a collection of wires and synthetic flesh programmed to smile? It's a cold thought that stays with you as you walk the gangplank of Rivet City and head back into the open wastes. The good fight feels more complicated now. When you fought the Enclave, you knew they were the enemy. But with the synths, the enemy is a system of control that reaches inside a person's head. You think about your father's work on Project Purity. He wanted to save humanity, but what does humanity even mean if a machine can feel the same hope and fear that he did? You realize that the world you're trying to build is much bigger and more confusing than a simple fight for water. As you head back toward the center of the ruins, you pass the Lincoln Memorial. It's another place where the past and the present collide. A group of escaped slaves has taken up residence there, trying to restore the statue of the great emancipator. They are being hunted by slavers from Paradise Falls, a walled-in den of thieves and kidnappers. The irony isn't lost on you. While the android was fighting for his freedom in a high-tech lab, these people are fighting for theirs with rusted shovels and old rifles. You decide to help the slaves at the memorial. You travel to the Museum of History to find the artifacts of Abraham Lincoln, his hat, his voice recordings, and the posters of his time. Bringing these items back to the memorial gives the slaves a sense of history and dignity. It reminds them that the fight for freedom is an old one, and that they are part of a long line of people who refuse to be owned. You help them fortify the monument and drive back the slavers, turning the ruins into a true sanctuary. The air at the Lincoln Memorial feels different after the battle. It's quiet and respectful. You stand at the feet of the giant stone statue, looking out over the reflecting pool. The water is clean now, thanks to your father, and the people are free, thanks to you. You've become a symbol of change in the wasteland, a person who doesn't just survive, but who tries to make things right. But you know that Paradise Falls is still out there, and as long as people are being sold in cages, your work isn't done. You check your Pip-Boy and see that you've explored almost every corner of the Capital Wasteland. From the stars above to the swamps below, you've seen the best and worst of what's left. You decide it's time to head north toward the mountains. There's one last story to uncover. A legend about a hidden valley where the war never ended. A place called Operation Anchorage. You pack your winter gear and a heavy stash of ammo. The snow is falling in the distance, and the final secrets of the pre-war world are waiting for you in the ice. The trail leads you to a snow-dusted industrial park in the northern corner of the wasteland. There, you find a group of outcasts, a splinter faction of the Brotherhood of Steel who wear striking black and red power armor. They have discovered a sealed pre-war military bunker, but they have a problem. The bunker's main armory is locked behind a computer system that requires someone to complete a virtual reality simulation. This simulation is Operation Anchorage, a digital recreation of one of the greatest battles in human history, the liberation of Alaska from invading forces just before the Great War. The outcasts need a vault dweller, because your Pip-Boy acts as the interface for the simulation. You lie down in a specialized pod, and as the world fades to black, you feel a cold, biting wind. When you open your eyes, you are no longer in the dusty ruins of Maryland. You are standing on a narrow, icy cliffside in Alaska, 200 years in the past. Your modern gear is gone, replaced by a winterized combat suit and a trench knife. The air is crisp and white, and the sky is filled with the roar of fighter jets and the thunder of distant artillery. In this digital world, the rules are different. There is no radiation, and you don't have to scavenge for food. Instead, you are a strike team leader. Your mission is to dismantle the Chinese military's pulse field, a massive electrical barrier that is preventing the American tanks from pushing into the city of Anchorage. You move through the snowy mountain passes, using stealth and precision to take out snipers and sabotage fuel lines. You are accompanied by a squad of American soldiers who follow your orders, treating you like the hero the history books once described. The environment of Anchorage is a stunning contrast to the wasteland. Instead of collapsed buildings and rubble, you see pristine military outposts and functional technology. You witness the power of the pre-war United States at its peak. You fight alongside T-51B power armor units and use Chimera tanks. The enemy is equally advanced, using Crimson Dragoon stealth suits that make them almost invisible in the snow. It's a fast-paced, loud, and violent war, a glimpse into the madness that eventually led to the nuclear fire that ended the world. As you push into the city, the battle reaches a fever pitch. You have to lead a final assault on the Chinese headquarters to take down General Jingwei. The general is a formidable warrior who prefers to fight with a shock sword rather than a gun. The duel takes place in the center of a frozen courtyard, surrounded by the wreckage of war. When you finally defeat him, the simulation begins to glitch and dissolve. You hear the voice of the computer system announcing that the mission is a success. The digital snow fades away, and you wake up back in the dark, damp bunker. The outcasts are ecstatic. The simulation was the only key to the armory, and now the heavy blast doors are grinding open. Inside, you find a treasure trove of pre-war technology that hasn't been touched in 2 centuries. There are rows of winterized T-51B power armor, Gauss rifles that fire slugs at supersonic speeds, and the very shock sword used by General Jingwei. It's enough firepower to tip the scales of any war in the wasteland. But as you start to gather your share of the loot, the tension in the room shifts. The outcast leader, Defender Sibley, decides that he doesn't want to share the technology with a civilian like you. He orders his men to turn their guns on you, leading to a bloody shootout inside the very bunker you just unlocked. You have to use your newly acquired gear to survive, feeling the incredible protection of the winterized armor as you fight off the men who were just your allies. Once the dust settles, you are the only one left standing in the vault of riches. You've earned every piece of tech in the room, but the betrayal leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. Stepping back out into the wasteland air, you feel like a different person. You are wearing the gleaming, white armor of the Anchorage veterans, carrying weapons that look like they belong in a museum. You've experienced the war that destroyed the world, and it makes you look at the ruins of D.C. with even more sadness. You realize that the people of 2077 were so focused on winning their battles that they didn't see the end coming. They had all this incredible technology, but they couldn't find a way to live in peace. You head back south, your heavy boots crunching on the dry earth. The winterized armor is more than just protection. It's a symbol. You've been to the stars, the swamps, the pits of industry, and now the frozen past. You are the living history of the world, carrying the weight of 2 centuries on your back. As you pass through the ruins of Fairfax, you see a group of raiders. They take one look at your glowing visor and the hum of your Gauss rifle and run for their lives. You don't even have to fire a shot. The journey has brought you back to where it all started, the area around Vault 101. You decide to check the radio one last time, wondering if there's anything left to see. To your surprise, you pick up a familiar distress signal. It's Amida. The vault has fallen into chaos since you left, and she's begging for your help. The home you were kicked out of is calling you back. You realize that you can't truly move into the future until you settle the ghosts of your past. You stand before the massive gear-shaped door of the vault, the same door you ran through in a panic all those months ago. This time, you aren't a scared teenager. You are a legend of the wastes. You press the intercom, and the door begins to groan. You're going back inside, but you know that things can never be the same. The vault was a cradle, then a cage, and now it's a test of whether you can truly forgive the people who tried to kill you. As you enter the sterile, humming hallways, the smell of antiseptic hits you like a physical wall. It feels smaller than you remember. The ceilings are lower, the lights are dimmer, and the people look frail. You realize that while you were out changing the world, the vault was slowly dying in its own silence. You find Amita, and the look of relief on her face is enough to make the whole journey worth it. But the overseer is still there, and the tension between the old ways and the new world is about to reach a breaking point. Walking back into Vault 101 feels like stepping into a dream you thought you'd forgotten. The air is still and smells of that familiar, sharp antiseptic, but the silence is heavy. It's been months since you were chased out by security teams, and the blue and yellow hallways that used to feel like a fortress now feel like a tomb. You find Amida waiting for you near the entrance. She's grown tired and stressed. The weight of leadership has fallen on her shoulders as she leads a group of rebels who want to open the vault to the outside world. She explains that since your father left and you escaped, the vault has been split in two. The current overseer, either her father or a man named Alan, depending on your earlier choices, has turned the place into a complete police state. He's convinced that the surface is still a death trap and that any contact with the outside will destroy their way of life. On the other side is the younger generation, who are inspired by your father's escape and the stories of the world you've seen. They're running out of supplies, and they want to trade with the people of the wasteland. As you move through the levels of the vault, you see the damage the conflict has caused. The diner where you had your 10th birthday is now a makeshift command center. The clinic where your father used to work is being used to treat people injured in the riots. Seeing your old neighbors cowering in fear makes you realize how much you've changed. To them, you look like a monster from a fairy tale, dressed in heavy armor and carrying weapons they've only seen in training manuals. You are the proof that the surface is survivable, but you are also a reminder of the danger that comes with it. You eventually make your way to the overseer's office. This is the moment where the past and the present finally collide. The overseer sees you as a traitor and a virus that has come back to infect his home. You have a choice that will decide the fate of everyone you grew up with. You can use your influence and your strength to force the vault to open, helping Amida take control and leading the people out into the sun. Or you can realize that the vault dwellers aren't ready for the horrors you've seen, the raiders, the super mutants, and the radiation, and decide that they are safer staying underground, even if it means living in a cage. There is a darker path as well. You can sabotage the vault's water chip or air filtration system, forcing everyone to evacuate immediately. It's a cruel choice that mirrors the destruction of the world 2 centuries ago. Most people choose to help Amida, either by convincing the overseer to step down or by providing the rebels with the technical help they need to maintain their independence without becoming a dictatorship. You use your skills to find a middle ground, ensuring that the vault stays functional but that its people have the freedom to choose their own destiny. When the dust settles and the conflict is resolved, there is a final, heartbreaking realization. Amida thanks you for everything you've done, but she tells you that you cannot stay. You are a hero to some and a villain to others, but to everyone, you are a reminder of the chaos that nearly destroyed them. The vault needs to heal, and it can't do that while a living legend is walking the halls. Just like your father before you, you are told to leave. You realize that Vault 101 was never your home. It was just the place where your story began. You stand at the heavy gear-shaped door one last time. As it groans shut, sealing you out for the second time, you don't feel the same panic you felt as a teenager. You feel a sense of closure. You've faced the ghosts of your childhood and you've saved your friends. You turn away from the steel door and look out over the wasteland. The sun is setting over the ruins of D.C., and for the first time, the horizon doesn't look threatening. It looks like a place of endless possibility. The air outside is dry and smells of dust, and it feels more like home than the vault ever did. You realize that your home isn't a place with 4 walls and a roof. It's the entire Capital Wasteland. You are the one who knows its secrets, its dangers, and its hopes. You check your Pip-Boy and see the icons for Megaton, Rivet City, and the Citadel. These are the places where you belong now. You've grown beyond the limits of a bunker, and your father's legacy is finally your own. As you walk down the hill, you pick up a signal on your radio. It's 3 Dog, and he's talking about the vault dweller who returned home. He tells the story of how you settled the trouble in 101, and he uses it as a lesson for the rest of the wasteland. That you can't run from your past, but you don't have to be a prisoner of it either. You smile, hearing the music play as you head toward the lights of Megaton. You have a house there, a robot butler, and people who know your name. You spend the next few days resting, but your mind keeps drifting back to the stories you've heard. You think about the replicated man and the synthetics from the north. You think about the strange, glowing lighthouse in Point Lookout. You realize that even though you've finished your main quest, the world is still full of small lives and big mysteries. You've become a protector of the wastes, a person who people turn to when the darkness gets too close. You decide to take a trip to the Republic of Dave, a tiny settlement in the far northeast where a man has declared himself president of his own country. It's a strange, humorous place that reminds you that even in the apocalypse, people still have a sense of ego and community. You help them with their election, seeing how even a handful of people can try to recreate the democracy of the old world. It's a small story, but in the wasteland, the small stories are what keep the world feeling human. As you leave Dave's Republic, you look up at the stars, thinking about Mothership Zeta. You wonder if the samurai and the cowboy are still up there, watching the world turn. You realize that your life has become a tapestry of the strangest events in history. You've lived more in 1 year than most people do in a lifetime. You head back toward the ruins of the city, ready for whatever the next day brings. The lone wanderer isn't lonely anymore. You are part of the very soil of the new world. Deep in the northern reaches of the wasteland, hidden among the jagged, rocky cliffs, you stumble upon something that seems impossible: a forest. In a world of gray dust and dead trees, this place, known as Oasis, is an explosion of green. Vines climb the canyon walls, thick grass carpets the ground, and the air is humid and sweet with the scent of pine and flowers. It feels like you've stepped through a portal back to the world before the bombs. But as you enter the valley, you are stopped by people dressed in robes made of leaves. These are the tree minders, and they believe this forest is a holy miracle. They lead you to the center of the grove, where the source of all this life is revealed. Growing out of the earth is a massive, ancient tree, but as you look closer, you see a human face embedded in the trunk. This is Harold. He is a mutant who has appeared in stories across the wasteland for decades. Long ago, a small sprout began to grow out of his head, and over time, the tree, which he calls Bob, took over his entire body, eventually rooting him to the spot. Now, Harold is the heart of the forest, his very essence feeding the plants around him. Harold is miserable. He has been stuck in the same spot for years, unable to move, while the tree minders worship him as a god. He is lonely, bored, and tired of being a divine provider. When he sees you, he doesn't ask for a prayer. He asks for a favor. He wants you to kill him. He explains that his roots have spread deep into the earth, and if you go down into the caverns beneath the grove, you can find his heart and stop it from beating. He just wants the peace of a final sleep. However, the tree minders are split on what should happen to their god. Their leader, Tree Father Birch, wants you to apply a special sap to Harold's heart that will stop the forest from growing any further. He's afraid that if the forest spreads too far, it will attract raiders and monsters that will destroy their peaceful community. On the other hand, Leaf Mother Laurel wants you to use a different ointment that will accelerate Harold's growth. She dreams of the forest spreading across the entire Capital Wasteland, turning the desert back into a paradise, even if it means Harold remains a prisoner of the wood forever. You descend into the damp, dark caves beneath the tree. The tunnels are filled with mirelurks and thick, pulsing roots that glow with a faint, green light. When you finally reach the heart, you are faced with a choice that affects the future of the planet. If you follow Harold's wish and destroy the heart, the tree man finally finds peace. The forest will eventually wither and die without his magic, but Harold will be free from his long suffering. You've shown mercy to an old friend, but you've snuffed out the only green place left on Earth. If you side with the Tree Father and stunt the growth, you protect the small community from the dangers of the outside world. The forest stays as it is, a small, hidden gem in the wasteland. Harold remains unhappy, but the tree minders are safe. If you side with the Leaf Mother and accelerate the growth, you choose the path of the world's rebirth. Harold's roots will push through the dry soil for miles, and one day, the entire wasteland might be green again. It is a beautiful vision, but it is built on the eternal sacrifice of a man who just wanted to die. Regardless of your choice, Harold's story is a reminder of the strange ways life adapts to the radiation. He is a bridge between the old world and the new, a mutant who became a creator. You walk back out of the lush valley, the contrast of the dry wasteland hitting you harder than ever before. You realize that paradise often comes with a heavy price. You carry the gifts the tree minders gave you, a suit of barkskin armor or a powerful hood, but your mind is still on the face in the tree. The experience at Oasis makes you think about the GCK and your father's work. Everyone is trying to fix the world in their own way. Some use science, some use magic, and some use sacrifice. You realize that the rebirth of the wasteland won't happen all at once. It will happen in small pockets like this, one choice at a time. You check your map and see that you've covered almost the entire region. There is a sense of the end approaching, a feeling that your time as the lone wanderer is reaching its final chapter. You spend a few days wandering the ruins of the Dunwich building, a place of shifting shadows and supernatural horror that reminds you of the darkness you found in Point Lookout. You find a strange statue and a diary that speaks of a dark man, realizing that there are forces in the wasteland that are older and scarier than nuclear bombs. You use the Krivbekne book you found in the swamp to cleanse the evil in the building, feeling a sense of spiritual weight lift from the area. You're not just a soldier, you're a cleanser of the land's many sins. As you head back toward the center of the map, you pass through the ruins of Andale. It looks like a perfect, pre-war neighborhood, but you quickly discover that the families living there have a dark secret. They are cannibals who have been preserving their lineage by eating travelers. It's a sickening reminder that the normalcy of the old world can be a mask for something much worse. You deal with the families, ensuring they can't hurt anyone else, and realize that the Vault's social experiments were happening everywhere, even in the suburbs. You return to Megaton to rest. Sitting in your house, you look at the bobbleheads you've collected on your stand, symbols of your strength, intelligence, and luck. You've come so far from the kid who didn't know how to fire a pistol. You've decided the fate of cities, religions, and species. But as the night falls, you hear a new sound on the wind. It's not a radio signal this time. It's the sound of a distant explosion coming from the direction of the Canterbury Commons. There's a rumor of a war between two superhumans, the antagonizer and the mechanist. It sounds like something out of a comic book, a bit of madness in a world that is usually too grim for capes and costumes. You decide that before you hang up your armor for good, you'll see what this colorful battle is all about. You load your weapons and head east. Even in the apocalypse, there's room for a little theater. In the far eastern reaches of the wasteland, you come across a town called Canterbury Commons. It should be a simple trading hub, but as you approach, you see something that looks like it was pulled straight from an old comic book. Two figures in elaborate, handmade costumes are locked in a theatrical battle in the middle of the street. One is a woman known as the antagonizer, who wears a suit made of insect shells and commands a swarm of giant ants. Her rival is the mechanist, a man in a clunky, retrofuturistic suit of armor, who leads a small army of custom-built robots. The townspeople are hiding in their basements, terrified and exhausted. They explain that this war has been going on for weeks, destroying their homes and scaring away the trade caravans. Both the antagonizer and the mechanist believe they are the heroes of their own stories, but to the people of Canterbury Commons, they are just a dangerous nuisance. The mayor, a man named Uncle Rowe, begs you to find a way to stop the madness before there's nothing left of the town to save. You decide to track down the villains in their secret lairs. You find the antagonizer deep within a nearby cave system. Her real name is Tanya, and she's not actually evil. She's a woman who was traumatized as a child when giant ants killed her family. In her grief, she became obsessed with them, eventually believing she could control them and use them to punish a world that she felt had abandoned her. She's living out a fantasy to cope with a reality that was too painful to bear. The mechanist, on the other hand, lives in a converted repair shop filled with the hum of electronics and the smell of soldering iron. His name is Scott, and he's a brilliant but socially awkward tinkerer. He truly believes he is a hero, creating robots to protect the town, but his machines are too aggressive and often cause more damage than the ants they're supposed to fight. He's so wrapped up in his superhero persona that he can't see the reality of the destruction he's causing. You have several ways to settle this rivalry. You can simply go in with guns blazing and kill them both, but after everything you've seen in the wasteland, that feels like a waste of life. Instead, you can use your speech skills to talk to them. You can show the antagonizer that her actions are making her exactly like the monsters that hurt her, or you can convince the mechanist that a true hero knows when to step aside for the good of the people. If you have a high enough reputation or specific items like a Grognak the Barbarian comic, you can even persuade them to give up their costumes and return to normal life. If you handle it peacefully, the transformation is striking. Tanya sheds her insect armor and leaves the area to find a new life, while Scott agrees to stop his robotic crusades and use his skills to help the town's infrastructure. They give you their unique equipment as a sign of respect, the antagonizer's sharp blade and the mechanist's high-tech laser pistol. The town of Canterbury Commons finally breathes a sigh of relief, the trade caravans return, and Uncle Ro rewards you with a hefty pile of caps and a permanent discount at the shops. This strange encounter reminds you that the wasteland does funny things to people's minds. In a world where the government fell and the laws disappeared, people often have to invent their own identities just to survive. Whether it's a president of a one-house republic or a supervillain in a cave, everyone is searching for a sense of importance. You realize that your own identity as the lone wanderer is just another version of this. You are the hero because you chose to be, not because anyone told you to. With the Battle of the Supers finished, you spend some time helping the local merchants. You realize that by investing your caps into the caravans, you can help the entire region's economy grow. You see the traders getting better armor and carrying more supplies, making the roads safer for everyone. It's a quiet kind of victory, but it feels more permanent than any battle. You're not just saving people, you're helping them rebuild a society from the ground up. As you prepare to leave, you take a look at the costumes you were given. They look ridiculous in the sunlight, but they represent a creative spark that the nuclear bombs couldn't put out. You pack them away in your stash, a memory of a town that survived through a bit of theater. You head back toward the ruins of D.C., feeling like the final pieces of your journey are falling into place. You've settled the wars of the past, the present, and even the imaginary ones. You decide to make one last stop at the National Archives. Inside, you find a man named Abraham Washington who is obsessed with preserving the history of the United States. He asks you to retrieve the original Declaration of Independence from the high-security vaults beneath the building. It's a mission filled with traps and ancient robotic guards, but it feels right. Bringing back the document that started the country gives you a sense of connection to the world your father loved so much. Standing in the archives, looking at the faded parchment behind the glass, you think about the contract you've been fulfilling. The wasteland is still a dangerous, broken place, but it has a history again. People are drinking clean water, the enclave is gone, and the stories of the old world are being preserved. You've done your part. You walk out into the bright, dusty afternoon, the sun reflecting off your armor. The journey is nearing its conclusion. You've traveled from the vault to the stars, from the swamps to the snowy mountains of the past. You check your Pip-Boy one last time. There are only a few markers left on the map. You decide to head back to the Jefferson Memorial, the place where everything changed. You want to see the water one last time, to see the blue light of the purifier reflecting off the Potomac. It's the legacy of your family, and it's the heart of the new world you helped create. Standing on the observation deck of the Jefferson Memorial, you watch the blue water churn through the massive pipes. It's a moment of reflection, not just on the people you've lost, but on the person you've become. When you first stepped out of Vault 101, you were a child stumbling over rocks, your hands shaking as you held a rusted 10mm pistol. Now, as you look at your reflection in the polished metal of the purifier, you see a legend. This transformation wasn't just about the armor you wore or the weapons you carried. It was about the mastery of the world itself through the unique skills and systems that govern life in the wasteland. The most powerful tool at your disposal has always been VATS, the Vault-Tec assisted targeting system. To the people of the wastes, it must have looked like you had the reflexes of a god. You could stand in the middle of a swarm of feral ghouls, and time would seemingly freeze. In those split seconds, your Pip-Boy calculated every trajectory and every weakness. You could see the percentage chance of a bullet finding its mark, allowing you to target a super mutant's weapon hand or a rad scorpion's stinging tail with impossible precision. It was the bridge between the high-tech past and your survival in the present, a digital ghost that turned every combat into a calculated dance of lead and laser fire. But the real growth happened in the quiet moments between the battles. You remember the nights spent by a campfire, looking over your notes and feeling your mind sharpen. You focused your training into specialized perks, those unique traits that defined your path through the ruins. Perhaps you became a bloody mess, where every shot seemed to carry a terrifying, explosive force, or maybe you took the mysterious stranger path, followed by a ghostly figure in a duster who appeared in your darkest hours to finish your enemies. These weren't just talents. They were the ways the wasteland reshaped your DNA, turning you into a predator perfectly adapted to a world of radiation and ruin. Your skills became your signature. If you focused on science and repair, you could walk into a derelict factory and bring the dead machines back to life, or hack into ancient terminals to uncover secrets that had been buried for 2 centuries. If you chose speech and barter, you realized that a well-placed word could be more powerful than a mini-nuke. You could talk your way past a firing squad or convince a hardened mercenary to lay down his arms for a cause he didn't even believe in. You learned that the Capital Wasteland is a place where information is the most valuable currency, and those who know how to use it are the ones who truly rule. There was also the physical toll of your journey. You've been rat away from death more times than you can count. You've lived through Grim Reaper's sprint, feeling a surge of adrenaline after every kill that allowed you to keep moving when anyone else would have collapsed. You've used sneak to move through the ruins of D.C. like a shadow, passing mere inches from a sleeping behemoth without making a sound. The SPECIAL attributes: strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck became the foundation of your existence. You pushed each to its limit, using bobbleheads and intense training to become the pinnacle of human potential. As you look out over the Potomac, you realize that your influence has seeped into the very soil. Because of your karma, people treat you with either awe or terror. If you chose the path of the saint, the name of the lone wanderer is whispered in prayers from Megaton to Rivet City. You are the one who brought water to the thirsty and hope to the hopeless. If you chose the path of the scourge, you are a nightmare that stalks the wastes, a person who destroyed a city for a suitcase full of caps and left a trail of fire in your wake. The wasteland is a mirror, and it has reflected exactly who you chose to be. The technology you've collected is a museum of the apocalypse. You have the Lincoln's repeater, a piece of history that still fires true. You have the alien blaster, a weapon from beyond the stars that vaporizes anything it touches. You have the T-51B power armor, the ultimate shield of the pre-war military. But more than the gear, you have the Grim Reaper's perspective. You've seen the end of the world, and you've seen the beginning of the next one. You understand the mechanics of power, how a single person with the right skills and the right timing can pull a civilization back from the edge of the abyss. You think about the puppet master experiments of the vaults and the great game of the ghouls. You realized early on that everyone in the wasteland is trying to play a role. The raiders play the role of the wolf, the settlers play the role of the sheep, and the Brotherhood plays the role of the shepherd. But you became something else entirely. You became the wild card. You are the one variable that no computer or overseer could have predicted. You are the anomaly that broke the cycle of decay and forced the world to move forward. The sun begins to dip below the horizon, casting the ruins of the Washington Monument into a long, jagged shadow. You check your Pip-Boy one last time. The map is full of explored locations. The quest log is empty, and your inventory is packed with the spoils of 100 victories. You've reached the level of a legend, where there are no more mountains to climb and no more monsters that can challenge you. You've become the hero of the wastes, a title that carries more weight than any rank in the Brotherhood of Steel. You turn away from the railing and walk toward the exit of the memorial. Your heavy boots echo in the rotunda, a steady, rhythmic sound that speaks of confidence and purpose. You've fulfilled your father's dream, you've broken the enclave, and you've seen the stars. The journey that started with a birthday party and a BB gun has ended here, at the heart of the world's rebirth. You are ready for the quiet, for the long walk back to your home in Megaton, and for the chance to finally put your rifle down. But as you reach the door, you stop. You hear a faint, distorted broadcast on the radio. It's a new voice, speaking from a land far to the west, beyond the mountains and the plains. It talks about a new California Republic, a Caesar's Legion, and a city of lights called New Vegas. You realize that the world is much larger than just the Capital Wasteland. There are other fires to put out, other villains to face, and other stories waiting to be told. The Lone Wanderer's chapter in D.C. might be closing, but the wasteland is infinite. You adjust the straps of your armor and check your ammo count. You aren't tired yet. The road is calling, and you have the skills, the gear, and the will to follow it wherever it leads. You step out into the cool night air, the stars shining brightly above the clean water. You take a deep breath, feeling the strength in your lungs and the steady beat of your heart. War never changes, but people do, and you are the proof. You begin to walk, leaving the memorial behind, heading toward the western horizon. The journey through the Capital Wasteland was never just a search for a father. It was the story of a world trying to remember how to breathe. Looking back, the saga of Fallout 3 is a tapestry of gray steel, green radiation, and the blue light of hope. It began in the sterile, suffocating safety of Vault 101, a place where the air was recycled and the truth was hidden behind heavy gear-shaped doors. You were born into a lie, told that the world outside was a dead husk where nothing could survive. But when your father, James, broke that seal and disappeared into the morning mist, he didn't just leave a home, he shattered a cage. Your first steps onto the rocky overlook above the wasteland were the beginning of a transformation that would reshape the entire East Coast. From the moment you reached the scrap metal gates of Megaton, the world demanded you choose who you were going to be. You stood over an unexploded nuclear bomb, holding the fate of a town in your hands. You could have been the hand of destruction, clearing the way for a wealthy man's view, or the guardian who disarmed the beast and gave the people a chance to grow. That choice set the tone for an odyssey that took you into the rotting heart of Washington, D.C. You navigated the dark, ghoul-infested metro tunnels, emerging into a landscape where the monuments of democracy were scarred by the fire of super mutants. You met 3Dog at Galaxy News Radio, a man who taught you that the good fight was something worth shouting about, even when the world was trying to drown you out. Your path eventually led to the rusted hull of Rivet City and back to the Jefferson Memorial, where the dream of Project Purity waited in the shadows. This was the core of your father's life, the belief that clean, radiation-free water could be the spark to reignite civilization. To find the key to that dream, you delved into the digital nightmare of Vault 112, freeing your father from the sadistic games of Dr. Braun in the suburban illusion of Tranquility Lane. The reunion was short-lived, however, as the Enclave, the remnants of a corrupt government, descended from the sky to claim the purifier for themselves. You watched your father sacrifice everything to keep the technology out of their hands, a moment that turned your personal quest into a war for the future of every living soul in the wasteland. The final chapters of the Capital Wasteland were written in laser fire and orbital strikes. You found the GCK in the horrors of Vault 87, survived the cold cells of Raven Rock, and stood alongside the Brotherhood of Steel as the giant robot Liberty Prime marched toward the memorial. The activation of the purifier was a baptism for the land, but it came at a price that mirrored your father's sacrifice. Whether you stepped into the radiation chamber yourself or sent a friend, the result was a world changed forever. Even after the Enclave's mobile base was crushed at Adams Air Force Base during the Broken Steel era, the work continued. You became the legend of the wastes, the one who brought the aqua pura to the thirsty and the one who finally broke the cycle of decay that had held DC in its grip for 200 years. But the story was deeper than just the main war. You traveled to the industrial slave pits of the pit, deciding the fate of a cure and a city built on the backs of the weary. You navigated the fog-heavy swamps of Point Lookout, losing a piece of your mind to an ancient feud between a ghoul and a brain in a jar. You were abducted by aliens on Mothership Zeta, leading a team of historical icons to seize control of a vessel from beyond the stars. You even stepped into a virtual Alaska to relive the Battle of Anchorage, bringing pre-war technology back into a world that had forgotten its origin. Every DLC, every side quest, and every person you helped or hindered added a layer to the myth of the lone wanderer. You were the bridge between the vault and the stars, the past and the future. As the dust settled over the Potomac, the Capital Wasteland entered a new age. The Brotherhood of Steel became the true protectors of the region, and the people of Megaton and Rivet City finally had a reason to look toward the horizon with hope instead of fear. You left behind a legacy of clean water and broken chains. But the life of a legend is a restless one. As the stories of your deeds began to fade into the campfire tales of the East, you felt the pull of the West. There were other wastes, other wars, and other choices waiting beyond the mountains. You packed your gear, looked at the purified water of the Jefferson Memorial one last time, and began the long walk toward the setting sun, leaving the world you saved to find the world that was waiting for you. The transition from the east to the west was a journey through the silence of the American interior. You traded the gray ruins of the capital for the red rocks and desert heat of the Mojave. You weren't a vault dweller anymore. You were a blank slate, a traveler who had seen the end of one world and the beginning of another. Your time in D.C. had taught you that war never changes, but it also taught you that individuals do. You carried the skills of a survivor and the perspective of a hero into a land where the rules were different, the factions were more complex, and the stakes involved the very soul of a new nation. The story of Fallout 3 ended in the blue light of the purifier, but the spirit of the lone wanderer lived on in every step you took toward the neon glow of New Vegas. This overview is a tribute to the journey that defined a generation of survivors. It was a story about family, sacrifice, and the stubborn refusal of humanity to stay down in the dirt. You proved that even in a world of monsters and radiation, one person's choices can ring out across the years. The Capital Wasteland will always remember the one who came from the vault to give it a drink of water, and the legends will always speak of the wanderer who walked through the fire to bring back the light. Now, as the Mojave winds begin to howl, the memories of D.C. provide the foundation for the challenges ahead. You are ready for the Mojave, but you will never forget the gray steel of Vault 101. The story of the Mojave begins not with the opening of a vault, but with the snap of a pistol and a shallow grave. Fallout. New Vegas is a tale of survival, politics, and a burning desire for revenge that eventually evolves into a battle for the fate of a new civilization. It starts in the quiet desert town of Good Springs, where you wake up in the home of Dr. Mitchell. You were once a courier, a simple traveler carrying a package through the wasteland. A platinum poker chip that was worth more than 1,000 lives. A man in a checkered suit named Benny ambushed you, shot you in the head, and left you to rot in the dirt. But the desert has a way of refusing to let go, and thanks to a robot named Victor and the doctor's steady hands, you were given a second chance at life. Your journey out of Good Springs is a slow burn across a sun-bleached landscape that feels alive in a way the Capital Wasteland never did. In D.C., you fought for basic survival against monsters. Here, you navigate a complex web of human greed and ideology. You head south, tracing Benny's tracks through towns like Prim and Novak. Along the way, you see the brewing storm between three massive powers. There is the new California Republic, NCR, a sprawling, bureaucratic democracy trying to bring law to the frontier but suffocating under its own weight. To the east, across the Colorado River, lies Caesar's Legion, a brutal, disciplined army of slavers modeled after ancient Rome, led by a man who believes only absolute tyranny can prevent another nuclear collapse. And in the center of it all is Mr. House, the mysterious, immortal ruler of New Vegas. When you finally reach the glittering neon of the New Vegas Strip, the game changes. You find Benny at the Tops Casino, and the man who tried to kill you is forced to realize that he didn't bury a courier, he buried a legend. After reclaiming the platinum chip, you are invited into the Lucky 38, the massive skyscraper where Mr. House resides. You discover that House is not just a casino owner. He is a pre-war genius who preserved his body in a life support system to guide humanity into a technological future. The chip is the key to his plan, a piece of software designed to upgrade his army of Securitron robots. Suddenly, you are no longer just looking for a killer. You are the kingmaker of the Mojave, the one individual capable of tipping the scales for the NCR, the Legion, or Mr. House himself. The middle of your journey is a masterclass in diplomacy and destruction. You are sent to negotiate with smaller, dangerous factions that hold the balance of power. You meet the boomers at Nellis Air Force Base, a tribe of isolationists who love heavy artillery and dream of flying an old-world bomber. You deal with the Great Khans in their canyon stronghold, a group of proud raiders who have been pushed to the edge by the NCR's expansion. You encounter the Brotherhood of Steel, hiding in a hidden bunker and clinging to a dying code of technology worship. Every choice you make ripples through the desert. You can forge alliances that will stand by your side at the Hoover Dam, or you can leave a trail of fire that leaves you standing alone at the end. The beauty of the Mojave is that it doesn't just offer you three masters, it offers you a fourth path. With the help of a reprogrammed robot named Yes Man, you can choose to push everyone aside and claim New Vegas for yourself. This independent path is a chaotic gamble, a chance to prove that the people of the Mojave don't need a republic, an empire, or a ghost from the past to rule them. As the tension mounts, the Second Battle of Hoover Dam looms on the horizon. This massive structure is the heart of the region, providing the power and water that every faction needs to survive. It is the site where the ideologies of the old world and the new world will finally clash in a storm of steel and fire. But the courier's story isn't just about the war for the dam. It is about the ghosts that haunt the edges of the map. You are drawn into the dead money nightmare of the Sierra Madre, a poison-filled casino where you learn that beginning again means knowing when to let go. You travel to the honest heart's beauty of Zion Canyon, deciding the fate of tribal wars and a man who was once the Legion's greatest general. You find yourself in the old world blues insanity of the Big MT, a scientific crater where the madness of the past is still very much alive. Finally, your path leads to Lonesome Road, a journey into the fractured remains of the divide to face Ulysses, a man who believes your actions as a courier have already decided the fate of the world. These side chapters teach you that every action has a consequence and every road has an end. By the time you return to the Mojave for the final battle, you are more than a traveler. You are a force of nature. You stand at the Hoover Dam as the sun sets, the NCR Rangers and the Legion Centurions clashing in the spray of the Colorado River. You lead your chosen allies through the chaos, fighting your way to the control room. Whether you protect the president of the NCR, throw the legate off the dam, or install Yes Man into the mainframe, the result is a world forever changed by your presence. The Mojave is a land of second chances, and you've used yours to write a new chapter in human history. As the battle ends and the dust settles, the voice of Ron Perlman returns to tell the story of the Mojave's future. He speaks of the towns you saved, the companions you helped, and the factions you destroyed. He reminds us that war never changes, but he also highlights that the courier, the person who was supposed to die in a shallow grave, is the one who truly changed the world. You walk away from the dam, back into the quiet desert you first saw from the porch of Dr. Mitchell's house. You have a platinum chip in your pocket or a crown on your head, but most importantly, you have your freedom. The story of New Vegas is a story of a journey that never truly ends, because in the wasteland, there is always another road to follow and another delivery to make. The legacy of the Mojave is one of complexity and choice. It showed us that the world isn't just black and white, but 1,000 shades of red and brown. You proved that even a bullet to the head can't stop a person with a purpose. From the neon lights of the Strip to the lonely winds of the Divide, you have seen it all. You are the courier, and your story is a testament to the fact that even in the ruins of the old world, the future is whatever we choose to make of it. You look back at the dam one last time, adjust your hat, and head into the sunset, ready for whatever the next wasteland has in store.